Welcome to this month's exercise of the month. We're looking at squat. We have done squat previously, but this is kind of like a version 2, so looking at a little bit more specific details. To see that first video, you can look at the link below here. So the first thing we're going to look at from side on is your basic setup and bar position. Set up with the bar on the shoulders. We're going to keep that bar on a direct line over the middle of the foot. Imagine your foot being your base of support. Just turn this way slightly. That's it, better. Good, and keep that bar right over the middle of the foot. As Isla goes down into her squat, let's do that. We're going to keep a nice tall chest. We're going to keep the curve in our lumbar spine, or our natural curve in lumbar spine. And we want the bar path the whole time keeping over that our base of support, middle of the foot. The next thing we're going to look at is the lumbar curve, holding tight at the bottom of the movement, but then essentially losing it, or not losing it, but just making sure it doesn't stay ultra tight at the top of the motion like you're cramping up your back. So when we go down, we want to hold lumbar curve really tight. As we come up, we want to tuck the tailbone, not to flatten the back, but just to keep it neutral. With the weight, the tendency is to overarch and cramp up the back. The next thing, if we look face on, we want to look at the knees. Just step back a little. And what we want with the knees relative to the feet is ever so slightly wider. Now the reason we do that is when we put the knees wider than the feet, there is a slight external rotation in the femur. And what that does is it opens up the joint at the hip. So let's have a look at if Isla were to keep a slightly internal rotated femur. If you go down to the squat, you'll see that the hip area jams up a little. Now if we can widen those knees, you'll see that the hips are able to open up. You're able to sit naturally lower into the squat, staying in the heels, and you can stand back up. Of course, we don't want to go too wide because then it's just unnecessary and uncomfortable, but we want them to be wider than the feet, which is why we don't want the feet too wide to start with. Otherwise, it's got to be ridiculously wide in the knees to have knees wider than feet. It's rotation at the hip that is what we're after. The next reason we want to do that also is for this reason. If you can go back into that position, Isla, when we have wide knees at the bottom of our squat, the adductors and the posterior chain is under that little bit of a stretch, well the adductors are, and when a muscle stretches, it is able to fire better, it's stronger, it's able to contribute more to the movement, because if a muscle is short, muscles contract. If it's already contracted, it doesn't have a lot more to do. And then pushing the bum out. Good. So I mentioned about stretching the adductors. Stretching the posterior chain happens from our next step. So if you go back to side on, we're going to talk about the bum position. On the way down, typically the bum will go fairly straight down. On the way up, what we call the stripper mover, the bum's going to kick out ever so slightly before tucking in at the top, like it's going to push into a stretched position for the posterior chain, the bum and hammies at the back of the leg. And again, when those muscles stretch, they are able to contribute more to the movement. So let's have a look at that with a bit more weight. If you go straight into this one, side view. Okay, so just do like 4 or 5 natural reps. Good. Excellent. We can see the chest is kept tall, bar path over the middle of the foot. You see the bum kick out slightly and coming in nice and strong. Really good. Okay, let's have a look at that with some variations now. Okay, to start with, we're going to look at the low bar back squat. So essentially the same as a back squat, except the bar sits literally, if you can see that, a few inches low on the back, on the groove at the back of the deltoid. By changing that bar distance, it shortens the lever, the torso lever, from the fulcrum, which is the hips, to where the bar sits. Typically it'll make our back, as you can see when Isla goes down, a slightly more angled torso than you'll see from our other squats. Sticking the bum back, good. Keep the bar back the whole time. And that's our low bar back position. You see the angle of the hips is quite acute at the bottom, like quite a deep angle. The knees won't get as flexed as you'll see in high bar now, and you'll see the torso will be a little bit more upright. That's it, very good. You'll see a greater knee angle at the bottom of this, slightly more upright. Yeah, very good, very good. Okay, now we change it to front squat. You'll see the torso come even more upright than the high bar squat. That's it. Knees still wide, still got tall chest, still lumbar curve and bar path. Yeah, really go upright. That's it. Perfect. And now let's turn into overhead squat. So overhead, arms wide. We still want to aim to have the bar staying over the midfoot, the whole time. If it goes too far forward, it's too hard. If it comes too far back, it's too hard. And go down again, you'll see the bum kick out at the bottom and strong in at the top. Excellent. Thanks, Isla. And there are our variations. Hope you enjoy.